into one of the world's most important sustainability assistance organizations. And here are just some examples of that growth. Since she became CEO and president in 1992, the number of contributors has increased 25-fold to more than 500,000. The number of families the organization has helped put nutritious food on the table has reached 12 million, 1.2 million last year alone. New programs launched under her leadership have multiplied the impact of Heifer International by engaging more people in meaningful ways, including programs like Passing on the Gift and Cornerstones for Just and Sustainable Development. And Heifer International has significantly broadened its efforts to include many kinds of animals, from bees to water buffaloes, as well as trees, seeds, and educational programs to help people use those resources to build sustainable communities. She earned her bachelor's degree from the David Lipscomb College and attended Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government and Business. She's been with Heifer International since 1989. She recently stepped down as CEO and will continue as president until next year. Please join me in welcoming Joe Luck.
President, Ambassador, my good friend and co-recipient David. He's wise, he's succinct, he's brilliant, you heard that. They talked about my little degrees because he's got those big ones, but let me tell you, we've got a preacher here and a teacher here, and we were called to make a difference, just like a lot of you. So as he said, you don't have to be the scientists and the researchers, it takes all of us together. I love standing in this room filled with a lot of my favorite people. Students, educators, and other individuals who are deeply committed to a sustainable world where there's equity, where it's free from hunger and poverty. It's a joy to be with you. Before I begin some remarks, I'm going to tell you something that probably isn't even necessary, but there's a nice story with it. It's the reason I'm going to. I picked up a little infection in Ethiopia, and it has ruined my eyesight, but I think it's temporary. So I just keep on going, and it'll go away. But unfortunately, I may have to hold these up here. And of course, you may be glad, see, if you don't I hadn't thought about it that way. It could be a good thing. But so forgive me if I do that. But I was dismayed this afternoon and disappointed I'd have to do that. But you know what? It made me think. I just got back from Kenya recently. And in one of the areas where we work with people that are blind, who actually learn to care for the animals, plow and plant, and gather the crops. And there'll be 5 children and the father and maybe the mother out of a group of about 8 or 9 that are all blind. And they had no dignity, they were not respected. But now they're making a good living and even passing on to others. And this one man came and stood before me to tell me about his animals and how it changed his life and what they were doing. And he read his thing like this, that he had written. And I was so inspired, and we were all so touched, that his what might have been called a disability was not. He stood up there like anyone else and gave his talk, and I shall try to do that tonight, just with the dignity he did. First of all, I'd like to say during my 21 years with Heifer International, I have had the honor and the privilege to meet individuals and families in developing countries around the world, to meet these people that are so amazing that you would not even believe when you see the pictures on the news, how really astronomical they can think and vision and plan and hope, and they're worth epic. Been from Poland to Kenya, from Nepal to Brazil, from Russia to South Africa, and I sit with them and I understand their distinct universal needs and their dreams. And from rural villages, the leaders to the most important, empowered, and maybe financially successful entrepreneurs. And I have had the good fortune to have been influenced and impacted by extraordinary individuals like these. I bring you now some greetings from some of those individuals. You're welcome to respond if you wish, in kind. Konnichiwa, Jumbo. Sawadee-ka, that's for the women. Ni hao. Namaskar. Ciao. Selamat pagi. Indonesia. Hello. Hola, ¿cómo está usted? And hi, y'all. What makes Heifer's programmatic work so unique, and we've learned over 66 years so effective, is our values-based approach to Heifer International. It's grounded, our approach to Heifer International. It's grounded in 12 cornerstones, principles or core values on which we base our work. And through this training, our project partners learn how that they can unite within their community to lift themselves out of poverty, to make their lives better, to unite. And then they go on to lead and help others. One of the 12 cornerstones, gender and family focus, which you probably suspect I brought in a big way, not to force it, but just to let the men decide it was a good idea. It encourages women and men to share in decision-making and ownership of the heifer animals. I may have to do that after all, excuse me. And in labor, and the women and the men, the whole village will be strengthened when they both are respected. And both the men and women become leaders in the community. Another of our cornerstones is passing on the gift, which was mentioned, President, which means that each recipient in their livestock and training, they're required to pass on the gift to another who's in need. And when you see a beneficiary become a donor, giving away half their wealth, it's something, it's great dignity, and they're proud and they have self-confidence and much respect in the community. Of course, being in a global leadership position does have its adventures. Over the past 21 years, I've traveled to more than 60 countries. I have slept on dirt floors, gone without bathing for several days, and prayed that some of the malaria-carrying mosquitoes would not penetrate my bed netting. I have been shot at in Sniper Alley in Sarajevo wearing a flak jacket and running for cover. I have stayed in a remote village in Java on the side of an active volcano, Mount Merapi, that a few years ago did erupt. It wasn't there then, thank goodness I left. And I survived an earthquake in Chiang Mai, been robbed in Bombay and Nairobi, missed being on a hijacked plane in Burma by 10 minutes, and it's the only time I've ever been late, and I was so thankful. I have been searched at many military checkpoints throughout Africa, Asia, and Latin America. I have photographed a charging elephant whose raised trunk and flapping ears were only 3 feet away when the driver finally coaxed the engine of our Land Rover to start. And we sped forward just in time to escape a mother's wrath because we had stalled too near her calf. Boy, did I get some good pictures. Natural Geographic might like them. I'll check on that. He turned around and he said, "What were you thinking?" And I said, "Well, I was thinking you better hurry up." I have eaten snake, yak, certainly not at the President's home tonight, it was fantastic, but I have eaten snake, yak cheese, beetles, guinea pig, and fried goat's blood, among a few other things, but always with a smile and a thank you to my host because they have just shared with me their finest food that is used for very special ceremonial events. And so it was a great honor. The only problem is when I had the goat's blood, I was sitting in 110-degree temperature in a Peru desert with a tin roof, and the leader and I were sitting together while everyone else surrounded us, and all the windows were blocked off from the air and watched us eat every bite. I did it. And then they told me what it was, and I learned it was only the first course. But you know what? You just have to put yourself in their shoes and appreciate their generosity. They were probably sharing with me food that would have lasted longer, and particularly when we have others with the group. But all of these are minor challenges and dull in comparison to the joy that I experience when I see lives now filled with hope and dignity instead of hunger and sorrow. I encourage all of you, not just the students. I speak at a lot of commencements and I like to talk to students very much. because they're the future leaders. And while they're already so smart at the age they are, I can't imagine what they're going to accomplish. But I would encourage you to do two things that will help guide you as you determine how you want to positively impact our world. If you haven't already, list the 10 most important things in your life. It's interesting when you do that. List your personal set of values. I seriously urge you then to refer to both these documents every time you make any significant decision in your choice in your future life. I also encourage you to think long term. When you consider your career and your life's work, don't just think about 10, 20, 30 years. Think farther than that. After all, I graduated from college 49 years ago, and I have just now reached the pinnacle of my professional career as a social activist for smallholder farmers and for empowerment of women. And now I'm receiving the World Food Prize with my good friend David. So if that isn't the pinnacle, I don't know what is. And if I had thought too short in my planning, I might have missed out on this wonderful, wonderful honor. And I have no plans to stop anytime soon. I may step away from Heifer, but I plan to continue the work, hopefully with some of you and others who are trying to make a difference, and I can share that experience. After all, life's a marathon, not a sprint. I once surveyed 200 people in 45 developing countries a few years ago to learn what's most important to them. I thought that would be of interest. You might expect to see at the top of their list such items as clean water, food for their children, a house instead of a hut, maybe a small plot of land or a bigger plot of land, electricity, medical care, dental care, eyeglasses, a stove, a toilet, a television, a car, new clothes, and so forth. Here is what their top 10 were. Family, love, peace, spirituality, health, friendship, livelihood, education, justice, and dignity. You know, when we fully and completely understand in our hearts and in our minds that all of us across geographical, socioeconomic, and political barriers inherently strive for the same ideals, we have made great strides then, becoming an active, equitable member and a positive force in our global community. Now you can better understand how impressive the people are with whom I work. It is quite inspiring to sit cross-legged in a circle on the ground discussing peace and justice issues in a rural village in a developing country. In Laos, I asked the village leaders, how do they decide which families would receive the first animals? Because we insist they organize, they make the decisions, they make the choices, they take charge of their life and have their leaders. We don't tell them. We share what we know and what options there might be. And of course, when I asked that of the leaders, they said, well, naturally, from the training, they follow the cornerstones, and they also build the housing, they have to find the materials, get friends to help, plant the fodder, learn how to care for the animals, take gender equity training, understand its full participation and agree with that, and sign a contract that they would pass on the animal. And when they're monitored, if they're not by their own people, if they're not doing a good job, the animal's taken away and given to someone else who is prepared and is waiting. And then they said they must have nunchai. I said, wait a minute, what's